One of the hardest parts about building a business after corporate is that it requires you to be visible in a way that you weren't before. I gotta admit, when I started in corporate, this was like one of the toughest things that I had to do was to I started corporate when I was 21, coming out of college. I had to be around a group of individuals in my firm and be very vocal about what I had accomplished in my internships, what I had accomplished in college, and what my family had accomplished, and what I intended to accomplish, and all of those things. And I gotta say, working as a black woman in a predominantly white um, career, which was management consulting. I was the only African American woman and African American in my starting class. It was very challenging, and the cultural difference between how we as a people and we as women speak about our accomplishments are very different than that of a man, particularly a white man. And it was an experience for me to in an environment where most of the individuals, had they had significant accomplishments to share or not, still found a way to be visible by talking about what what the conversation of interest was in the moment, and whether they believed they could fill the feet or the boots of the person that they would be either working with, or that they would be replacing, or walking into the companies that we were planning on consulting. I'm trying to convey the point that it was very different and difficult for me to speak up and talk about the greatness of my work and the greatness that I believed I could create with the new work that I was taking on. It was challenging, not just as a black woman, as a woman, period. And so I feel, and it's been my experience, that men tend to talk about their accomplishments and what they believe they can achieve much more fluent or readily. They're able to be much more visible than we can. That's just my personal experience, right? So one of the hardest parts of building a business after leaving an environment like that, when you've worked for a corporation, is that you now are 100% required. If you weren't required then, to speak up for yourself when you were working in a corporate environment, you definitely are required as a business owner to be visible in ways that you never have been before. So like in corporate, you could lead without putting your face on the internet. Like you could just go into a staff meeting and just lead, or you could just complete your work assignments, and because it was done, you led, and your work speaks for itself. You could be excellent in these meetings, and with your work product, and never post about it to the world. Your reputation literally traveled through your company, through the internal networks that were already in place, right? It was just not visible on public platforms. But now, being seen to the external world is the model that you have to adopt, and learn how to put yourself out there so that people know that you exist. So people not only need to know that you exist, they also need to understand with clarity what you do. They need to hear your perspective about what you do before they even begin to trust you and hire you, right? So visibility feels very vulnerable because you don't know this. Like when you're an entrepreneur, when you own a business, you're likely a thought leader in your space, and so you're talking about things that are sensitive, or maybe have never been talked about. Maybe you're sharing a perspective that have never been shared before. So it feels very vulnerable. It feels vulnerable because it is, right? But here's the thing. Being seen doesn't get more comfortable because you wait to be visible. it gets more comfortable because you practice being visible. And the first time that you post something that's personal, it feels very exposing. The 10th time you post something that's personal, it feels normal. And then the 100th time you post about something personal, it feels like part of the process, right? So you don't build comfort by avoiding visibility. You build it by showing up often enough that it stops feeling like you're putting on a performance. Okay? So you've got to be willing to move forward being imperfect. Imperfection is action in leadership. Okay? It's action in leadership. Um, and I want to make sure that you understand that being imperfect is a part of being in business. It's not being sloppy. I think when we were working in corporate, if the presentation wasn't perfect, oh my God, I remember working for um, a managing director inside of my consulting firm where she would go through my presentations and she nitpicked everything. I mean, all the way down to where I put the staple on the presentation. She had a way about like the staple had to be like if I had like a deck that was stapled, the staple had to be vertical on the side of the paper as opposed to how I was stapling it. I would like either staple it like on a diagonal on the paper or I would do like a horizontal on the paper. She wanted it vertical because, she's saying that's when you flip the pages. You need to flip a certain way, right? So anyway, to her that was sloppy, right? In business, you can, when you own your own business, you can be sloppy. In fact, being sloppy is strategic. It gets to be a part of your brand. It's how you figure out what resonates, and people get to actually watch you be sloppy and see what actually works and see how people engage. And you'll find that they become much more gooey. The people that are following you and what it is that you do, because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like she can mess up, she can not be perfect, which means that I can actually mess up and I cannot be perfect as well. It's very inspiring. So I don't want you to invest too much in trying to get things right. It doesn't have to be right, right? And you're not lowering your standards by allowing your natural way of doing things to be the way that you do things. Okay? You're shifting your focus from being polished to one that creates a pattern. You're shifting your focus from being perfect to one that creates proof. Because when you move into creating a pattern, you are creating proof that what you're demonstrating is real, is successful, is repeatable. It's something that could be trusted by you and also by all the people that are following you. Okay? So again, leadership is not about having everything figured out. It's about moving forward even when you don't have everything figured out. So that is my perspective on this topic.